Air Force Base in California, you're watching live coverage of the launch of NOAA's Joint Polar Satellite System 1, also known as JPSS 1, the first in the series of 4 highly sophisticated weather satellites. Hi, I'm Tori McClendon. Thanks for joining us. Today's launch of the United Launch Alliance Delta II is scheduled for 1:47 a.m. Pacific Standard Time with a 1-minute, 6-second window from Space Launch Complex 2. Let's go now to Mike Curie and Josh Finch inside Delta II Launch Control for more information on today's launch countdown. Mike and Josh, how's it going?
Great, Tori. Thank you very much. Yes, we are Delta Launch Control, and we are a little more than halfway through a planned 20-minute built-in hold at the T-minus 15-minute mark in today's countdown. We're set to resume the count at about 1:22 a.m. Pacific time. Fueling operations began on time more than an hour ago, and both stages are ready for this penultimate launch of the Delta II rocket. The launch vehicle is loaded with RP-1, a rocket-grade kerosene, and liquid oxygen. And as a note, NASA launch manager Omar Baez coordinated a new liftoff time of 1:47 a.m. and 35 seconds, the middle of today's 66-second launch window, and the countdown clocks will be adjusted to that time during the T-minus 4-minute hold.
There are no significant technical issues being worked at this time. The Delta II rocket and JPSS-1 spacecraft are healthy and ready for an on-time liftoff. We are standing by for a weather briefing from Vandenberg Air Force Base 30th Space Wing Launch Weather Officer Captain Russ Malagani, who will give the launch team his final planned briefing for this launch countdown.
Status for safety and launch agency constraints with probabilities of violation.
This is the this briefing will be displayed on CCTV's Channel 9 and 10. Beginning with Channel 9, current satellite loop indicates a steady stream of high-level clouds rolling in. The low levels are masked by all the high cloud. Current radar loop indicates no significant returns. And the winds at the 102-foot level show northerly winds anywhere between 340 and 360. At 15 knots, occasional gusts to 18 knots, and has also been steady over the past couple of hours. Turning to Channel 10, currently we have no watches, warnings, or advisories in effect. For primary day forecast, again, we've got that high-level cirrus with unrestricted visibility. There is no weather. And temperatures, we bumped those up a little bit. They're going to remain in the mid-50s. Winds, we're keeping out of the northwest. Through north-northwest at 11 to 16 knots. We still anticipate occasional gusts of 23 knots. And for our range safety LTCs, we are currently green and forecasting POV is 0%. For the user constraints, we're forecasting 30% for ground winds greater than 26 knots. Moving to the backup day, again, we've got continued cirrus with unrestricted visibility and no weather. Temperatures are going to drop to low to mid-50s. Winds will be out of the northwest, 10 to 15 knots. Occasional gusts to 20 knots. We're forecasting a POV of 0% for backup day, and ground winds for the user constraints of 20% with winds greater than 26 knots. And this concludes my briefing.
LO indicates clear to proceed. All stations report questions are acknowledged. LO. Delta RC.
RC.
LD.
LD.
NLM.
NLM.
OD.
OD.
Slick.
Slick.
Weather conference net clear.
And as you heard, we are clear to proceed with launch. Weather is go at this time. Our forecast calls for winds 11 to 16 knots, gusting to 23 from the north-northwest with a temperature between 50 and 55 degrees. Our only concern is ground winds. The probability of violation 30%, which means we have a 70% go forecast, and everything is looking good at this time, Josh.
Teams of managers and engineers from NOAA, NASA, and United Launch Alliance have been on console for over 4 hours in several launch control facilities at Vandenberg Air Force Base. This is the Remote Launch Control Center, or LCC. From here, NASA Launch Manager Omar Baez from NASA's Launch Services Program, Launch Director Tom Heater from United Launch Alliance, or ULA, and Launch Conductor Scott Barney of ULA are overseeing the final steps expected to lead to liftoff.
And we are less than 2 minutes away from picking up the count at T-minus 15 minutes and counting. We have one more built-in hold at the T-minus 4-minute mark. We'll enter that hold at 1:33 a.m. And at that time, we'll get our final polls for launch. And at this time, we are very pleased to be joined by Dr. Steve Volz. He's the Director of NOAA's Satellite and Information Service. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So tell us, what do you think has been the biggest challenge the JPSS team has faced leading up to launch today?
So I'll say what I don't think it was. I don't think it was the technical issues. We dealt with a number of spacecraft and ground system technical issues over the past months and years, and the NASA, NOAA, and the contractor team have done a fantastic job of focusing their skills and expertise to resolve the issue, to analyze it, and get us moving forward without a hiccup. Lots of stress, lots of long hours, but they've worked that real well. I think the biggest challenge has been, as this program has been so long in the making, has been to maintain the focus. As for the team is really to understand that the really importance of this mission, the first operational satellite out of the past NPOST program and now the new JPSS program. It's a long time coming. It's been 15 or more years since the development of this, and really to keep your eye on the final solution, the final path here to get this spacecraft launched. The team has done a great job doing that, but it's the context of that larger environment that they have to keep focused on the hardware, and they've done a really great job in doing that.
Yeah, it sure seems like it, and everybody is very excited. You can see that the Delta II rocket is poised on the launch pad. We are about 20 seconds away from coming out of our T-minus 15-minute hold, about 25 minutes away from launch. Very exciting day.
Everybody is just thrilled. We love this satellite, but they want to get working on the next one. So the best place for this thing is to be in orbit, so we can work on JPSS-2 and deliver these services.
And standing by to come out of our hold, and we are T-minus 15 minutes and counting.
So with everything go for launch at this time, let's go back to Tori McClendon for more information about this important mission for NOAA and NASA.
The MST is a permanent fixture at Space Launch Complex 2 at Vandenberg Air Force Base. It stands 178 feet tall and has 9 levels for engineers and technicians to perform work. The MST is parked 300 feet to the southeast of the Delta II. The Delta II first and second stages and the JPSS-1 spacecraft were assembled together inside the protective shielding of the MST. The MST was rolled back away from the rocket, attached to the fixed umbilicals tower, leaving Delta II and JPSS-1 ready for launch. So later on today's broadcast, you're going to hear from the JPSS-1 project scientist and the JPSS program manager, the director, to learn more about the spacecraft. You're also going to hear from experts from NASA's Launch Services Program and United Launch Alliance, who will talk about the history of the Delta II rocket and its significance to this mission. JPSS is a collaborative program between NOAA and NASA. JPSS is the nation's next-generation polar orbiting environmental satellite system that will gather a multitude of global measurements. This series of 4 highly sophisticated weather satellites will provide greater imaging, increased resolution, and faster coverage, which will increase the timeliness and accuracy of forecast 3 to 7 days in advance of extreme weather events. The JPSS satellite system will provide weather observations through 2038. JPSS-1 will launch atop United Launch Alliance Delta II rocket. The Delta II has a successful track record of sending satellites like JPSS-1 into space. Let's take a look at the history of this incredible launch vehicle.
Delta II has been a terrific rocket for NASA and our nation. Often heard it referred to as the workhorse for NASA. It filled a really critical space in launching the variety of NASA science spacecraft over the years. We've gone to other planets, Mercury,
and liftoff of Messenger on NASA's mission to Mercury.
Mars, We've gone to the moon.
0 and liftoff of Delta II with Grego.
Just a really special rocket filling the role for science. After almost 30 years of great service to our nation, Delta II is now flying out. We've got 2 last rockets. We're going to launch JPSS-1 in November of 2017 and then ISAT-2 in 2018. So you have 2 opportunities left to see this great rocket before it's retired.
And we have separation.
So as you just heard from Tim Dunn, the Delta II rocket has a well-celebrated history with 153 vehicles previously flown. JPSS-1 is the 53rd Delta II mission for NASA. The Delta II on this mission is flying the 7920-10 configuration, consisting of 2 stages and 9 strap-on boosters. In addition to JPSS-1, the Delta II rocket is taking up 5 CubeSats, which will be deployed in succession after spacecraft separation. Today's launch coverage is going to take us through CubeSat deployment. For United Launch Alliance and the Delta II rocket, there's a lot of action after liftoff that will place JPSS into a precise orbit. Here's a detailed outlook of what takes place following T-0.
The following profile details the important events of this mission using approximate times.
5, 4, 3, 2. Main engine start. 1, 0 and liftoff of the Delta II with
The Delta RS-27A main engine and 6 solid rocket motors, or SRMs, ignite to lift the vehicle away from the pad. Shortly after liftoff, Delta begins its initial pitch, yaw, and roll maneuvers to attain the proper ascent profile and minimize aerodynamic loads. The Delta II reaches Mach 1, the speed of sound, at 33 seconds. At 49 seconds, the vehicle experiences maximum dynamic pressure. The 6 ground-lit SRMs burn out approximately 64 seconds into flight. The 3 air-lit SRMs ignite a second and a half later. At 1 minute 27 seconds, the ground-lit SRMs are jettisoned. Approximately 45 seconds later, the 3 air-lit SRMs are jettisoned. At 4 minutes 23 seconds, the mission enters a coast phase. 8 seconds later, the booster stage is jettisoned. Second stage engine ignition takes place 6 seconds after first stage separation. The payload fairing is jettisoned at 4 minutes 41 seconds. The second stage engine cutoff, or SECO-1, occurs at 10 minutes 38 seconds. The second stage and the JPSS-1 satellite enter a coast phase. Approximately 51 minutes into flight, the second stage engine is reignited for a second burn. SECO-2 occurs approximately 24 seconds later. At 57 minutes 30 seconds, the Delta II releases the Joint Polar Satellite System for NOAA and NASA. At 75 minutes, the second stage engine ignites for a third burn, lasting 10 seconds. Approximately 7 minutes later, the first 3 CubeSats are released, followed by a release of another CubeSat 100 seconds later. The 5th and final CubeSat is released 100 seconds later at approximately 85 minutes.
United Launch Alliance has a long-standing tradition of dedicating each mission to friends and colleagues who have passed on. Today's mission is dedicated to Eric Lemon and George Dean. Eric began his aerospace career in 1970 as an Air Force sergeant working on the Thor missile program, which is the precursor to today's Delta II. As the principal facility electrical engineer, Eric worked tirelessly with the ULA team, the 30th Space Wing, and the Western Range at Vandenberg to ensure that facility electrical systems were properly configured for critical operations like today's launch. George Dean retired from Boeing following 43 years of service. As the Move Master for Huntington Beach operations, George supported the Delta II, III, and IV programs. Many of the critical move procedures implemented under George's leadership are utilized on the Delta today. George was kind and considerate and a mentor to all those who knew him. He is survived by his wife Jennifer and daughters Tori and Michelle. The memory of our dear friends remain and is a constant reminder to believe passionately in what you do and have fun doing it.
Stand by, Tori.
At the Remote Launch Control Center, and we're listening in as teams go through the necessary steps to lead to a liftoff of the Delta II rocket with the JPSS-1 spacecraft. We're at T-minus 5 minutes, 24 seconds, and counting. Now, we have a T-minus 4-minute hold coming up in just a few moments. That T-minus 4-minute hold is standard in the countdown for the Delta II rocket. This time allows managers and engineers to assess their systems and give a go, no-go status during a series of briefings.
NASA's Launch Services Program, which is known as LSP, is based at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida and is responsible for selecting the appropriate launch vehicle for a mission spacecraft. In this case, it is the United Launch Alliance Delta II for JPSS-1 that you see on Space Launch Complex 2 at Vandenberg Air Force Base.
As liftoff nears, teams oversee the launch vehicle's engineering, manufacturing, and its integration with the spacecraft. LSP conducts the countdowns for NASA's scientific missions and provides additional quality assurance to ensure a successful mission.
For launches like JPSS that require a spacecraft to fly around the world in a north to south orbit, known as a polar orbit, LSP manages launches from here at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California, as well as the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station adjacent to Kennedy Space Center in Florida, and launches from Kwajalein in the Marshall Islands, Kodiak, Alaska, and Wallops Flight Facility on Virginia's eastern shore. And we're standing by to go into our final hold of the day at T-minus 4 minutes. 3, 2, 1.
T-minus 4 minutes.
T-minus 4 minutes and holding.
Please separate new T0 of 09:47:35 Zulu.
With 13 minutes 51 seconds remaining before launch, we'll keep our ears listening to the launch teams as they get ready for the liftoff of the Delta II rocket with the JPSS-1 spacecraft. But for now, we'll go back to Tori.
Thanks, guys. As we mentioned earlier, JPSS-1 is the first in the series of 4 next-generation weather satellites that will increase the timeliness and accuracy of weather forecast 3 to 7 days in advance of extreme weather occurrences. Let's take a look at the processing journey of JPSS-1 leading up to today's launch. NASA and all of its partners value their tremendous contribution to the success of this mission. Joining us now is NASA Edge co-host Blair Allen and the Center Director at NASA's Kennedy Space Center, Bob Cabana. Blair?
Thanks, Tori. Despite the very, very early hour here, we're very excited for this launch, but we're also very excited to be joined by Bob Cabana. Bob, this is a very important mission, JPSS-1. What does this kind of mission mean or launch mean for Kennedy?
Well, for me, personally, on behalf of the Kennedy team and the Launch Services Program, it's really great. The partnership we have with ULA, with NOAA, providing this ride on this ULA Delta II for JPSS is outstanding. And, JPSS is pretty important, too. Having gone through 2 major hurricanes in a 10-month period, it's kind of nice to have more accurate data forecasting those hurricanes on orbit.
Yeah, and I would imagine, too, this isn't just one, this is going to be a series, so that it's going to help in the immediate future, but long range, a tremendous impact.
Absolutely. They want to have 2 satellites on orbit at all times for backup and everything, but so they're on about a 5-year launch schedule. It's more accurate data, which goes into the models and improves forecasting, so it's really important.
And so, can you tell us just a little bit about the future? What's next at Kennedy in terms of space flight?
Absolutely. Everybody thinks we shut down after the shuttle left, but nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, we've transitioned to be a multi-user spaceport. We're enabling commercial operations to low Earth orbit. We're preparing for the future, our exploration program with SLS and Orion. At the end of this calendar year, we'll have all the construction of the hardware and facilities done to support the launch of SLS in late 2019. And next year is a really big year. Looking forward to test flights on both the Boeing and SpaceX spacecraft flying crews to the International Space Station.
And as a former astronaut, that's got to feel good.
Hey, I want to see us get crews up on orbit from the United States so we don't have to rely on our Russian partners.
Well, thanks so much, Bob. We really appreciate it. And just want to let everyone know, when music and passion is always in fashion when you speak with Bob Cabana from NASA Kennedy Space Center. Tori?
Thanks, Blair. If you're just joining us this evening, you're watching the live coverage of the launch of NOAA's Joint Polar Satellite System 1, or JPSS-1, from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. The United Launch Alliance Delta II is poised to lift off from Space Launch Complex 2. JPSS-1 is the first in a new series of 4 highly advanced NOAA polar orbiting satellites. With that, we're going to go back over to Mike and Josh in the Control Center for the final count to launch. Mike and Josh, how's it going over there?
Monitor the... Hi, Tori. Things continue to move along here in the Remote Launch Control Center. We continue to monitor the launch teams as they move toward the liftoff of the Delta II rocket with the JPSS spacecraft. We're still within the T count 4-minute hold, so we're about 8 minutes, 40 seconds away from launch.
And there are a number of polls that are being conducted at this time. Members of the engineering and management teams are reviewing all of their data. The Western Range is evaluating the range for a go, no-go forecast. Upper-level winds, which had been a bit of a concern earlier on, have come into parameters at this time. Launch ground winds are within parameters. No weather issues at this time. No major technical issues are being worked. We'll be standing by for launch conductor Scott Barney to perform his final status check in about 1 minute. We're about 8 minutes away from launch.
1, all personnel and visitors remain in present position until launch. Maintain operational silence in the LCC.
Once again,
For
the
condition that exceeds a launch constraint anytime after a terminal count status check, the observer shall announce hold, 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 channel 1, identify their station, and briefly state the reason for the hold.
Our T0 time has been adjusted to 1:47 and 35 seconds a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're about 7 minutes, 14 seconds away from liftoff. And we're standing by for the status check from launch conductor Scott Barney.
L minus 7 minutes.
Status check. Proceed with terminal count. Report go, no go. Talker.
Go.
FSC.
Go.
Prop 1.
Go.
Prop 2.
Go.
PEA.
Go.
EEA. EEA Net 1.
EA, go.
BP.
Go.
SCM.
Go.
SYS.
Go.
FAC.
Go.
ATC 3.
Go.
Timer.
Go.
HYE.
Go.
FMA.
Go.
SSC.
Go.
SSP.
Go.
TM1.
TM1's a no-go at this time. Looking into a red alarm on a BE. Our main engine yaw current.
Roger, no go. TM2.
Ready.
BE.
B, ready.
ATC2.
Go.
BSE.
DSE's go.
OSM.
Go.
FACA.
Go.
GE.
Go.
RC. RC. RC Net 1.
RC. Yeah, RC's on 1. We are go pending a closure final analysis, nozzle closure final analysis from the range.
Roger, you're red at this time?
Red at this time until the slick determines go or not.
STM.
STM is go.
USO.
Go.
AC.
No go.
Roger.
Pending the alarm evaluation.
Roger. Launch Director, LC.
Yeah, repoll me after we clear up these other items.
Roger, just to let you know, we are no-go at this time.
Understood.
Note of personnel, switch channel 15 after liftoff is
L
confirmed.
minus
for
5
passing.
minutes.
SYS, disable alarms for the noted parameters.
Complete.
Scheduled to come out of our hold in 45 seconds. However, we have some no-go conditions at this time. Waiting for the western range to clear an item. And an issue with the second stage slew that manifested itself earlier in the count.
Verified manifold press is 160 to 185 PSIG.
Verified.
NSC reports spacecraft is configured for launch.
Spacecraft is configured for launch.
Roger.
LC, establish countdown limit conditions, T-minus 4 minute on.
On.
All personnel stand by for release of the hold.
T-minus 4 minutes and counting.
Hold.
Hold.
And we've released the countdown clock. However, there has been a call to hold. We're counting down to the remaining launch window. There are 23 seconds remaining before we would be able to pick up the count and launch today. Managers in the Mission Director Center.
0318. SSC perform T-minus 4 minute recycle.
Active.
Launch window has expired for today. The countdown clock is holding at T-minus 3 minutes, 40 seconds. Launch conductor has ordered the team to reconfigure back to the 4-minute mark. And we'll stand by for further details.
First stage external. Second stage is external and safe. Scripts complete. Safe and external.
Roger.
just about the time that we were expected to come out of the hold at T-minus 4 minutes, there were a couple of positions that reported that they were no-go, and with the very short launch window that we had this morning, there was not enough time to completely work the issues and clear them. The rocket is in a safe condition. The spacecraft, JPSS-1, is in a safe condition. Managers in the Mission Director Center at the Remote Launch Control Center overseeing the recycle of the count.
FSC, can you verify first stage safe?
Yes, I can verify first stage.
SSC, second stage safe.
Safe.
And SSC, verify SNAs are safe.
Safe.
Second stage, verify external.
External.
Beacon external.
External.
CRD's external.
External.
SW amp on.
On.
And first stage external.
First stage is external.
And prop 1, you can verify vehicle tank press is closed.
Closed.
And prop 2, establish lock stopping cycle at 99%.
Roger.
Prop 1, fuel umbilical purge closed.
Closed.
FAC, fan off.
Ed?
Say again.
I didn't catch that. Repeat.
Yeah, page 20, fan off.
Roger.
And in booster engine, AC window, establish Alpha through Charlie. FAC, pad water system disabled.
Disabled.
And after booster and engine section fan have been off for 30 seconds, restart and a high speed.
Roger. We remained in high speed, high heat.
Roger. Guidance computer AC dump closed.
Closed.
Verify spacecraft AC on and applied.
Verified.
And
occurred during the T-minus 4 minute poll. A couple of positions reported no-go status. At this time, the spacecraft and the rocket are in a safe condition. You're hearing Launch Conductor Scott Barney run through the steps to safely turn around and prepare to detank. At this time, we do not have any insight into the next launch attempt, but we will pass that information on as soon as it's available.
we did not pick up T-minus 4 minutes and counting, and we did verify that all recycle steps are in the proper condition and recommend forward action.
Yes, sir. We need to set up for a 24-hour turnaround.
Roger that.
And as we heard, the preliminary plan is to set up for a 24-hour turnaround.
003-26 SE Elson.
SC.
Stand by. We'll have talker proceed on. And again, team, we're picking up on A003-26.
SC, initiate spacecraft transfer to external power and report complete.
Roger.
Prop 1, launch enable off.
Off.
SSP, launch enable off.
Off.
FAC, launch enable off.
Off.
ATC 3, launch enable off.
Off.
LC, establish T-minus 4 minute limits off.